Amsterdam is known for its picturesque canals, historic architecture, and rich cultural heritage, yet it's also home to some of the world's most significant artworks. If you want to dip your toe in the art scene, you can do that here. Wherever your tastes and preferences may lie, there's art here to satisfy it. Today, we'll be looking at just a few masterpieces that are housed across 3 particular museums in this amazing city. These museums, made up of Rijksmuseum, the Van Gogh Museum, and the Stedelijk Museum, are nestled closely on the map, living on a public square called Museumplein, or Museum District. They display thousands of pieces of art and annually welcome around 5 million visitors. Originally a wax candle factory, this area gained prominence and underwent significant development for the 1883 International Colonial and Export Exhibition. Following the exhibition, the area continued to develop with the construction of major museums and became a focal point of art and culture in Amsterdam. It gained its lasting title, Museumplein, when the Rijksmuseum opened 2 years later. Today, the square is a peaceful place filled with trees and benches, inviting passers-by to pause, sit, and soak in the panoramic views of Amsterdam's cultural heart. First up, let's visit the Rijksmuseum. This national museum focuses on Dutch Golden Age art and historical artifacts, displaying over 8,000 objects from a total collection of 1 million items that span over 800 years of Dutch history. It was founded in 1798 in The Hague and moved to Amsterdam 10 years later. Initially, the collection was housed in a few rooms at Huis ten Bosch Palace. Although the 17th century was recognized as a key period in Dutch art, the museum lacked paintings by notable masters. But over time, the collection grew from purchases and donations. Militia Company of District 2 under the command of Captain Frans Banning Koch, or more commonly known as the Night Watch, is a monumental painting by Rembrandt van Rijn, completed in 1642. This impressive piece, measuring at nearly 12 by 14 feet in size, is one of the most famous artworks of the Dutch Golden Age. This period in Dutch history, roughly spanning from 1588 to 1672, was a time of immense prosperity and cultural flowering in the Netherlands. The Dutch were at the forefront of global trade, science, art, and military power in Europe, and were key players with an extensive network of trade routes and colonies dominating the trades of spices, textiles, and luxury goods. This brought a lot of wealth to the region, yet it's important to acknowledge its darker side. The Dutch were deeply entrenched in the transatlantic slave trade, with an estimated 1.6 million people enslaved by Dutch traders from the 17th to the 19th century, over 2 centuries. The wealth generated from the exploitation and dehumanization of millions of Africans bankrolled various sectors, including shipbuilding, finance, and even the arts. The Netherlands is now reevaluating its historical narrative, especially concerning its golden age, to include marginalized voices and address the legacies of colonialism and slavery. While these changes, unsurprisingly, have been met with some criticism, they represent a significant step towards a more comprehensive understanding of history. The Night Watch depicts a group of city guardsmen preparing for a procession rather than being on a night watch as the title might suggest. The name is actually a misnomer and came about in the 18th century due to the dark varnish that covered the painting, making it appear as though it was set at night. After a thorough cleaning and restoration in the 1940s, it was revealed that the scene actually takes place during the day, offering a new perspective on the painting. The scene is full of activity, a deliberate choice by Rembrandt, which was a departure from the static group portraits typical of the time. Instead of arranging the figures in rows, Rembrandt animates the portrait, showing the sitters performing specific actions that define their roles as militiamen. Some are cleaning their weapons, a drummer setting a rhythm, and a dog barking at his feet. The painting is a group portrait of a company of civic guardsmen, specifically the Amsterdam company of arquebusiers, or musketeers, who served as defenders of their city. It was commissioned around 1639 by Captain Van Gogh and 17 members of his militia, listed here. It was to be hung in the Guildhall that housed the Amsterdam Civic Guard Company of Musketeers, whose weapon, the musket, is also prominent here. These halls were traditionally decorated with group portraits of distinguished members, serving not only to record their likenesses, but also to assert the city's power and individuality. Let's take a closer look at two key figures. We can see Captain Franz, the commander of this company, in the center foreground of the painting. He wears formal black attire with a white lace collar and a bold red sash across his chest. At his waist is a sword, and in his hand a baton, signifying his military rank. He is captured mid-stride, addressing his lieutenant, Willem van Rautenburg, who stands out in bright yellow. His attire includes a steel neck guard, or gorget, and a strongly foreshortened ceremonial weapon called a partisan that he carries. A particularly striking feature is the mysterious girl who emerges from the darkness behind the musketeer in red. She draws considerable attention with her flowing blonde hair and ornate gold dress. Yet her most curious attribute is the large white chicken hanging upside down from her waistband. This bird, especially its claws, references the emblem of the musketeers, a golden claw on a blue field, making her a personification or mascot of the company rather than a real person. Besides the 18 portraits, Rembrandt also includes additional figures to further liven the scene and suggest the additional members of the company. Most of these figures are relegated to the background, with their faces obscured or only partially visible. One figure, wearing a beret and peering up from behind the helmeted figure, has been identified as Rembrandt himself. Despite the many subjects and elements, Rembrandt imposes a sense of order. The way each figure is positioned in space and highlighted adds balance to the scene. At the time, it was common practice to distribute light equally across all characters in a group portrait. But Rembrandt paints an irregular pattern of light and dark, and this stark contrast enhances the sense of drama, depth, movement, and ultimately the story we have before us. This technique, known as chiaroscuro, was used frequently by the artist and is one of the reasons he's still world famous today. Now notice that there are two distinct sources of light amidst an otherwise dark painting. The lieutenant and the girl are most brightly shown, as if spotlighted, which sets them apart from the rest of the scene. At first glance, it might seem that the captain's dark attire makes him less noticeable, yet he actually remains the focal point of the painting. His hand catches the light, casting a shadow on his lieutenant's body, and it appears to reach forward, drawing us deeper into the painting. Subtly but surely, Rembrandt is directing our gaze across the painting through visual cues. On the right side, there are three nearly symmetrical diagonal lines created by the lieutenant's partisan, the musket, and the pike. A similar pattern can be seen on the left side with the captain's cane, the musket, and the flag. Two more lines can be drawn from the captain's thumb and index finger, all lines channeling the viewer's eyes back to the main highlights. The threatened swan, painted around 1650 by Dutch artist Jan Asselijn, depicts a dramatic scene in which a swan with outstretched wings and an arched neck defends her eggs from an approaching dog. It feels dynamic, as if the swan can jump out at us at any moment. The painting, measuring at 4.7 by 5.5 feet, is actually life-sized. Asselijn strategically positioned the swan from a low vantage point to enhance its imposing presence. His signature, marked with a monogram A, is visible in the bottom right. Asselijn was a prominent figure in Dutch Golden Age painting. Renowned for his Italian landscapes and animal scenes, his oeuvre was greatly influenced by his travels in Italy, evident in his use of dramatic light and composition, similar to the works of Baroque Italian masters. While the swan is portrayed with realistic detail, other elements, such as the low-hanging clouds, the dog, and the flat-looking eggs are less realistic. This juxtaposition emphasizes the swan's protective stance and adds to the painting's dramatic tension. The painting gained political significance as a symbol of Dutch national resistance. It was interpreted as an allegory for Grand Pensionary Johannes de Witt, who defended the Dutch Republic from his enemies and was assassinated in 1672. The Grand Pensionary, a political role somewhere between a prime minister and a foreign affairs minister, was an important position in the governance of the Dutch Republic. Inscriptions were added to the painting 100 years after Asselijn's death to further emphasize this interpretation. The Dutch people refer to the Grand Pensionary as the swan protecting Holland, symbolized by the eggs, from the enemy of state, seen as the dog. The swan, a symbol of purity in the 17th century visual language, represents de Witt's integrity and dedication to the state. The painting's political significance emerged during a propaganda war regarding the legitimacy of de Witt and his political adversary, the House of Orange-Nassau, and whether de Witt's public lynching was justified. Despite the posthumous inscriptions, Asselijn's painting continues to resonate. In fact, it was the first acquisition of the Nationale Kunstgalerij, the precursor to the Rijksmuseum in 1800. Today, the painting's symbolism has evolved, with populist far-right political parties appropriating it to symbolize national sovereignty. However, this reappropriation overlooks the painting's original context and intent, emphasizing the importance of interpreting art with historical accuracy and sensitivity. The Serenade, also known as The Lute Player, is a painting by Judith Leyster. It captures a moment of pure musical absorption. A young man sitting on a chair, depicted from the knees up, slightly turned to the side with his face partially obscured, revels in the music he is creating. There are no other elements in the painting to detract from our attention or distract us, nothing in the background. Yet the setting, through the choice of lighting, feels intimate and domestic. A strong unseen light source illuminates the young man's face and hands, while the rest of the scene is bathed in soft, diffuse light. This technique creates a sense of drama and immediacy, drawing the viewer's eye to the focal point of the composition, our subject's face. The bright red of his breeches forms a fine contrast with the greenish background, adding to the painting's visual impact. His clothing and the room's interior suggest a middle-class setting, which is typical of the artist's genre paintings. Leyster was the first woman to become a master painter in the Netherlands in the 17th century. She received this title in 1633, after being admitted to the Guild of St. Luke in Haarlem. This high status allowed Leyster to open her own studio and take on pupils. Her talent is evident in the effects of light and dark and her use of color. This piece here was painted in 1629 when the artist was only 20 years old, but it was incorrectly attributed to Frans Hals, until Willem van Bode, a German art historian and curator, saw it in a collection in 1883. He noticed the prominent J in the signature and attributed it to Jan Hals, Frans Hals' son. This is one of 7 paintings to be properly credited to Leyster by Hofstede de Groot, a Dutch art historian, 10 years later in 1893. After the realization of Leyster's forgotten prominence and talent, she was posthumously distinguished from Frans Hals, despite her work being thought of as his for almost 200 years. She specialized in portrait-like genre scenes, typically of 1 to 3 figures who generally exude good cheer and are shown against plain background. Many are children, and others are men drinking. This particular piece captures a fleeting moment of concentration and artistry, welcoming us to enter the room and imagine the music that's being played. The Milkmaid, also known as the Kitchen Maid, is a masterful work by the Dutch Baroque painter Johannes Vermeer, dating from around 1658. Measuring at approximately 1.4 by 1.3 feet, This painting is a quintessential example of Vermeer's unparalleled ability to transform everyday scenes into timeless works of art. Renowned for his depictions of domestic interiors of middle-class life, Vermeer is celebrated as one of the greatest painters in Dutch art history, despite producing only about 35 known works. Here we see a milkmaid, a woman who milks cows and makes dairy products, absorbed in her work. Unlike the elegant, affluent young ladies Vermeer often portrayed, this scene features a maid hard at work. She wears a crisp linen cap, a blue apron, and a yellow top with rolled-up sleeves, revealing her strong forearms. This composition radiates a quiet calmness, with the only movement being the milk gently flowing into a bowl. Vermeer transforms this simple activity into a subject of great beauty, positioning the maid like a statue in a brightly lit room, illuminated by the light from the window on the left. Historically, milkmaids and kitchen maids were often depicted with amorous undertones, but Vermeer's treatment of this subject is different. The maid's monumental presence and her apparent unawareness of the viewer emphasize her dedication to her work. We can see a foot warmer on the floor behind her. An X-ray of the painting reveals that Vermeer initially included a laundry basket there, highlighting her domestic duties. The foot warmer, however, suggests a more improper implication, as a woman would typically warm herself by hanging her skirt over it, and hence it also symbolized the warmth of romantic desire, further supported by the images of Cupid on the tiles. However, the maid's focus on her task suggests a theme of caring for others, rather than romantic love. Vermeer's technical prowess is evident in his lifelike depiction of the subject pouring milk, the intricate textures of the jug and bread, and the play of daylight. We can almost hear the milk splashing into the pot and the crust of the bread, and feel the light shining off of the glazed pot. He uses impasto for the texture of the bread, a technique where paint is thickly laid on a surface so that brushstrokes or palette knife marks are visible. The precision with which he depicts reflections and textures suggests a profound understanding of his materials and an extraordinary level of patience and skill. The daylight shining through the window creates distinct contrasts of dark and light, which Vermeer further emphasizes through delicately placed highlights and shadows. The woman's left shoulder and right arm in the shadow are deliberately set against her pale skin and the background wall. He enhances this interplay by adding a thin white line along the right-hand contour of the maid's body, subtly separating her from the background. The details such as the several holes in the wall where nails have been removed help settle in the scene's realism. Vermeer, a master of subtlety and detail, harnesses the tools of his trade, light, perspective, color, and texture to immortalize the ordinary. A simple act of everyday life becomes a profound meditation on life's quiet dignity. This painting, like much of Vermeer's oeuvre, continues to captivate and inspire, offering a glimpse into the serene beauty of the 17th century Dutch household. Against a dark background, we see a lush bouquet in the style of flower paintings popular in the late 17th century. As the most renowned female painter of the Dutch Golden Age, Rachel Ruysch's works are characterized by meticulous detail, vibrant colors, and skillful composition. Her paintings not only showcase this technical accomplishment, but also reflect the growing interest in botany and the natural world during the 17th and 18th centuries. She was the daughter of Frederick Ryusch, a professor of anatomy and botany. Her familiarity with plants likely began through her father's extensive collection of animal skeletons, mineral samples, and botanical specimens, which she used to hone her drawing skills. She studied under the tutelage of Willem van Alst, an acclaimed flower painter who taught her not only the technical aspects, but also the art of arranging bouquets to appear spontaneous and less formalized. This technique resulted in her painting's realistic and three-dimensional quality, And while her style closely resembles that of her mentor, she advanced it further, capturing the essence of nature through a blend of scientific and artistic study. By 18, Ryusch was producing and selling independently signed works. In 1693, she married Urian Pohl, a portrait painter with whom she had 10 children. Pohl was reportedly supportive of her career, acknowledging her superior talent. In his painting of their family, he even depicted her at her canvas, showing her prominence and contributions to the arts. Here in this painting, a diverse array of flowers, including tulips and peonies, are painstakingly arranged in a glass vase. The flowers spill forth with a natural weight and beautiful disorder, illustrating the fleeting beauty of the blooms and the artist's unmatched skills. There's a gentle interplay of light on the petals and leaves, as well as subtle shadows that deepen the realistic quality of the painting. The vivid florals and the dark muted background enhance the bouquet's striking presence further. The technical precision of Ryusch's work is immediately noticeable, from the veins to the leaves. Roses, prominently featured in her work, likely symbolize her family crest, which was a blue rose with 5 petals. The white poppies are known for their associations with sleep and death, referring to the crucifixion, and the morning glory, blooming from darkness into light with its ability to open from a dormant state, symbolizes the resurrection, adding further poignance to Ryusch's already rich composition. Experiencing this piece in person reveals an almost startling level of realism, making her flowers seem more lifelike than real ones, which is an unforgettable experience. Despite the challenges faced by women artists of her time, Ryusch achieved remarkable success and recognition. She enjoyed an international reputation over a career that lasted almost 7 decades and became the best documented female painter of the Dutch Golden Age. The Happy Family by Jan Steen offers a captivating glimpse into 17th century Dutch life. The composition is filled with details that convey the chaotic yet lively atmosphere of a crowded home. We can see parents, kids, and maybe some extended family members all caught up in the moment, singing, playing music, smoking, and drinking. The room is a mess, and that's part of the charm. One peculiar detail is a rug draped over the table, an unusual placement for such a valuable item in the 17th century that was normally used to cover tables as a sign of wealth. But here, it's thrown on the table carelessly, almost falling off, suggesting that no one is too worried about appearances right now. As we look down, we can see that scattered across the ground are various dinnerware, a spoon, a tray, a pan, and a jar, further emphasizing the scene's disorder and carefree energy. This figure is a self-portrait of the artist. Steen gazes out at the viewer while playing a bagpipe, an instrument associated with fools during this time period. Despite being a visual medium, this painting almost seems to emit noise, giving us enough elements to imagine the sound within. Old and young are enjoying themselves. The mother and grandmother sing. The father joins by raising a glass with one hand while holding a violin with the other, and the children follow their example. The central theme of this piece revolves around generational influence and the transfer of behaviors from one to the next. This is highlighted by the note hanging from the mantelpiece, which reads, "As the old sing, so shall the young twitter." Steen illustrates this old saying, affirming that bad examples are quickly mimicked. Born in Leiden, Netherlands, into a family of brewers, Steen initially trained as a brewer himself before studying under the landscape painter Nicolaas Knupfel, and later the history painter Jan van Goyen. He is best known for his lively scenes set in taverns or domestic settings, and while these may be amusing at first glance, they often contain subtle references and hidden messages. Steen had a keen eye for human nature and famously cluttered his painting with human untidiness, providing a psychological insight amidst the chaos. It's no surprise that he has gained a reputation as one of the most popular artists of the 17th century, infusing his works with moralizing themes and hidden symbolism. Next, let's go to the Van Gogh Museum. Dedicated to the life and works of Vincent van Gogh and his contemporaries, this museum opened in 1973 and houses the largest collection of Van Gogh's paintings and drawings in the world. It includes over 200 paintings, 500 drawings, and more than 750 letters by Van Gogh, which provides comprehensive insight into his artistic development and personal life. The Potato Eaters from 1885 is a dark-toned, dynamic portrait of a peasant family around their dining table. Vincent saw this piece as the one that would challenge his skills as a painter and make him known in the Parisian art market. He deliberately chose a difficult composition to prove he was on his way to becoming a skilled figure painter, despite having little experience with full-length portraits. He wanted the scene to accurately depict the harsh realities of country life, giving the peasants coarse faces and dark working hands. In this way, he wanted to show that they have tilled the earth themselves with these hands they are putting in the dish, that they have thus honestly earned their food. He painted 5 figures in earth tones. The subjects are 5 of the members of the Duchrot family, which consisted of the mother Cornelia and her children Hendrik, Peter, and Gordina, as well as Cornelia's sister and 2 brothers who lived in a semi-detached cottage. The figures here are Cornelia, her sister, their 2 brothers, and a young girl, Cornelia's daughter, standing at the table, which was common for children at the time. The 2 adults on the left are eating from the plate of potatoes, and the 2 on the right are serving coffee. The colors here are dark and look more or less the same, but Vincent used a wide range of shades to achieve this effect. He mixed complementary colors in equal amounts to intensify each other, resulting in varying shades of gray. For example, the gray-green of the woman's hat shows where he added one color over another. Through this careful method, he hoped to create a colorful effect in a dark painting. The cloak of darkness obscures many details in the scene, and there's only one light source here. You might have noticed that there's a clock hanging on the wall on the left. It's 7 o'clock in the evening, dinner time. During this time period, it was common for potatoes to be eaten throughout the day in different forms. The ones being eaten here are freshly boiled. We can even see the steam coming off of them. Other hidden details include a clog filled with cutlery and a religious print besides the clock to bless the house. It might be interesting to know that the back of this chair originally had Vincent written on it, but it's no longer visible as the paint has darkened with time. He painted this piece while living with his parents in Nuenen, a rural town in the Netherlands, home to many farmers and laborers. He painted 2 preliminary studies before this final version. In the first study, there are 4 figures, and the focus is on the effects of light and shadow rather than the details. The 5th person and the additional items were added in the second study, showing how the painting became more elaborate over time. Although this piece did not bring Vincent the success he had hoped for, he never gave up on it. He even asked his family to send him the peasant drawings he had left behind, and between March and April of 1890, 5 years later, he created new sketches of peasant figures around a table. Sadly, these were never translated into a painted version, due to his death in July of that year. Despite his hard work and ambitions for the Potato Eaters, the painting was not featured in an exhibition during his lifetime and received considerable criticism for its dark colors and figure inaccuracies. Yet today, it's considered one of Vincent's most famous works. In a letter to his sisters 2 years after creating the piece, he reflected on its significance. What I think about my own work is that the painting of the peasants eating potatoes that I did in Nuenen is, after all, the best thing I did. Vincent van Gogh created over 30 self-portraits from 1886 to 1889, making them a substantial portion of his body of work. Due to financial constraints, he often turned to himself as a model. This prolific output provides a unique opportunity to study the evolution of his artistic style and psychological state over time. This extensive series not only allows for tracking his physical appearance and artistic development, but also reveals his mental health struggles and relentless pursuit of self-understanding. This piece was his final work in Paris, a city that exhausted him both mentally and physically. He described himself to his sister Will as having wrinkles in his forehead and around the mouth, stiffly wooden, a very red beard, quite unkempt and sad. Paris was a major center for art and culture at the time, and Vincent's exposure to new techniques and ideas in the city significantly impacted his development as an artist. Though he technically classified as a post-impressionist, his experimentation with color and form began when he was exposed to the works of the Impressionists in Paris. He was inspired by their techniques, particularly their use of broken color, short brushstrokes that create a sense of movement, and the subject matters they chose to depict. Self-Portrait as a Painter, completed in 1888, features the artist holding a palette and brushes behind an easel, indicating his role as an artist, an ambition that didn't always come easy to him. His direct gaze is penetrating and reflects a sense of determination and passion for his art. He is dressed in a blue smock against a bare background. He shows that he's a modern artist by using a new painting style with bright, almost unblended colors. Looking closer, we can see his strategic placements of complementary color pairs, reds and greens, yellows and purples, and oranges and blues. He laid these pairs down side by side to intensify one another. The blue of his smock, for instance, and the orange-red of his beard. He painted a similar piece of himself 2 years prior, yet there's a drastic difference here. The color palette is more subdued with tones of brown, black, and gray dominating the composition. This results in a more somber mood and a less vibrant approach to color. In the broader context of Vincent's body of work, this self-portrait is him acknowledging and even celebrating his identity as an artist, as well as his exploration and refinement of the unique artistic style that would make him a household name in the history of art. Vincent van Gogh's Sunflowers from 1889 is perhaps one of his most recognizable works. These vibrant blooms are almost synonymous with Vincent himself. While in Paris in 1888, he was inspired by the works of the Impressionists and decided to introduce more colors into his paintings. Creating flower still lifes not only allowed Vincent to experiment with color, but also generally sold well for other artists, so Vincent was hopeful of a sale. He painted his first sunflower piece in Paris. Paul Gauguin, a painter whom Vincent admired, was notably impressed by these works, and Vincent was deeply honored by Gauguin's praise. He had recently gotten to know Gauguin and looked up to him, so for him to appreciate his work confirmed that he was on the right artistic path. He continued painting sunflowers when he left Paris in 1888 and settled in Arles in the south of France. In a letter to his brother Theo, he wrote, "I'm painting with the gusto of a Marseillais eating a bouillabaisse, which won't surprise you when it's a question of painting large sunflowers." He created a total of 5 large canvases with sunflowers in a vase, demonstrating the possibility of endless variations on a single theme, without losing expressive power. Although the basic palette remained the same, he experimented with different colors, textures, and brushwork. When he learned that Gauguin would visit him in Arles, he painted several sunflower still lifes to decorate his guest's bedroom, this one being one of them, and upon seeing them, Gauguin referred to them as completely Vincent. This piece is part of a triptych with 2 versions of the sunflowers on either side of the woman rocking the cradle in the center. He made this portrait as an homage to the Madonna, a comforting mother figure. The bright yellows of the sunflowers intensify the colors of the central portrait, and Vincent believed that the triptych as a whole symbolized gratitude. In the painting, we see a simple clay vase, sturdy and humble, sitting on a wooden table at the center of the canvas. From this bursts a lively bouquet of about 15 sunflowers in various stages of life, some in full bloom and others wilting. The piece is dominated by overwhelming yellows, yet it comes in many shades and hues, ranging from deep gold to almost white. The greens from stems and leaves, along with the light purples in his signature and the center of one flower, provide a cold balance to the warmer tones and unify the composition. The back of the canvas reveals where Vincent nailed a wooden strip to the top, likely to give the flowers more space. His sunflowers contributed significantly to his posthumous fame and are a visual expression of gratitude, allowing him to convey his reverence for life's simple pleasures and the transformative power of beauty. Wheatfield with a Reaper, painted in 1889, captures our subject laboring under the bright sun in the wheat fields of Saint-Rémy, a small village near Arles. Vincent voluntarily had himself admitted to the Saint-Paul-de-Mosol psychiatric hospital here after struggling with his mental health and experiencing several crises. This new environment, although only 16 miles from the city, presented a different landscape that inspired Vincent, as it is nestled in the foothills of the Alpilles. He painted this piece from his hospital room, as he wasn't permitted to leave the grounds for the first few months. From the barred window of his room, he saw the reaper working in the heat of the sun. He is the focal point and blends almost seamlessly into the golden waves of the wheat that surrounds him. Vincent used thick yellow paint to create the rolling wheat fields with round and straight brushstrokes, giving a sense of movement. The cooler shades of the mountain range provide a respite from the sun's warmth. To Vincent, wheat symbolize the eternal cycle of nature, and the reaper as the image of death, in this sense that humanity would be the wheat being reaped. He added, however, that this death was almost smiling. Keeping that present in one's consciousness, as Vincent did in his canvas, imbues that presence with a richness and energy that would otherwise be consumed by denial. Make peace with death and see it as the beautiful finale of the adventure of life. Vincent made at least 14 paintings and numerous sketches of this scene. He painted the first version 3 months prior, in late June of 1889. This version here is thickly impastoed, a technique where paint is thickly laid on the surface. Our reaper is depicted with just a few brushstrokes of blue, almost indistinguishable from the yellow wheat around him. His sickle is a single line, barely visible, perhaps reflecting Vincent's own fears about the finiteness of life. The second version is less yellow, with the sun placed higher in a greenish sky. Vincent also added a small tree near the left edge of the painting along the hills and removed the pile of wheat from the foreground. This piece encapsulates Vincent's personal struggles while simultaneously highlighting his ability to find and depict profound beauty in the world around him. Last but not least, the Stedelijk Museum houses modern and contemporary art and design masterpieces. Their collection comprises of works from the early 20th century to the present. They are particularly noted for their collection of pieces by Dutch modernists, including members of the Dutch style movement. The museum building itself is an architectural landmark. The original building, which opened in 1895, follows the Dutch Renaissance Revival style with its red brick facade, white stone detailing, and large windows. In 2012, the modern wing known as the bathtub was completed to provide additional gallery space. In addition to its permanent collection, the Stedelijk Museum also hosts temporary exhibitions that explore current social, political, and cultural issues, demonstrating the museum's commitment to remaining a dynamic and relevant institution in the contemporary art world. Piet Mondrian's composition number 4, with red, blue, and yellow, is an important piece in understanding his journey to artistic maturity. Created in 1929 when Mondrian was 57 years old, it reflects his evolution from early landscape paintings to the geometric abstraction for which he is best known. Born in Amersfoort, Netherlands, he received his formal art education at the Academy of Fine Arts in Amsterdam. He initially painted naturalistic and impressionist landscapes, which, as he experimented in search for his personal style, led to this post-impressionist piece where the color palette is made of almost entirely reds, yellows, and blues. This was the earliest Mondrian painting to emphasize primary colors. A pivotal moment in his artistic development occurred in 1911 when he decided to move to Paris. There, he incorporated Cubism into his works after seeing Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque's pieces. His stay in Paris was cut short as World War I began. This unexpected event detained him in the Netherlands, during which time he continued to refine his style and gradually simplified his compositions. By 1917, he had co-founded De Stijl with Theo van Doesburg, one of the most recognizable movements in all of modern art. De Stijl advocates for an abstract use of geometric shapes and primary colors, supplemented by blacks, whites, and grays. Central to this movement's philosophy is the concept of neoplasticism, an avant-garde art theory that advocates for purified abstract art by applying the most elementary principles through rational means. And here we can see that, a grid of black lines forming 6 rectangles and squares. The solid colors of red, blue, and yellow are placed at the corners of the canvas, and the rest is painted white. There's no blending or effort for three-dimensionality here. The lines, drawn without a ruler, are straight and intersect at right angles. Everything is ordered. By stripping away representational elements and focusing only on form and color, Mondrian gives us a chance to reflect on the harmony it exudes. It is timeless and has a universal beauty, true to the artist's vision that abstract art is a gateway to the spiritual. Jacqueline de Jong's Rencontre accidentelle, or Accidental Encounter, is a series of paintings created in 1964. De Jong was born in 1939 into a Jewish family of art collectors and became a prominent figure in the early 1960s. She was one of 2 female members of the Situationists International, a radical leftist organization that aimed to break down the division between artists and consumers and make cultural production a part of everyday life. She led the Dutch chapter, but was expelled within 2 years for being too commercial in this anti-capitalist movement. Yet she didn't take it lying down. She created the Situationist Times, a magazine she launched from her Paris apartment. This publication covered a diverse range of interests, including a DIY aesthetic, sheet music, and even a bomb shelter schematic. One of the 6 issues ever published focused in its entirety on an extensive visual essay of knots. Despite lacking formal artistic training, de Jong had always enjoyed painting and was influenced by the Art Brut and Cobra movements, known for their expressive use of color and animalistic forms. Her works characterize this. We can see her bold, expressive compositions that sought to critique and transform contemporary society. This piece reveals de Jong's affinity for monstrous figures, aggression, and distortion. The theme of cars and traffic accidents connects her conceptual situationist practices with her paintings. The unpredictability and disorder of contemporary life reflect the situationist critique of societal structures. This group practiced dérive, a technique to combat the boredom of society and capitalism by embarking on unplanned journeys through urban environments in order to experience the city's psychogeography. Here we see 2 misshapen figures in yellow and orange, with what appears to be a car around them and a wheel in the background. This piece depicts a road accident witnessed by the artist. The ambiguity in how figures are depicted, with their human-like eyes and mouths, but otherwise abstract forms, incite the viewers to reflect on our own humanity as we process the events that happen around us. Yet the bright, playful colors and the spontaneous application of paint convey a more whimsical story. The artist's hand is evident in every brushstroke, creating a sense of immediacy and involvement. The dichotomy between these playful aesthetics and serious themes leaves us contemplating the coexistence of opposing messages. And that's why we can't help but to keep looking. This compelling blend of the raw intensity of violence and mundane banality of the everyday, looked upon with the artist's unexpected sense of humor, both challenges and captivates us. Museumplein provides unparalleled access to masterpieces across history. These institutions house vast collections of art and historical artifacts and provide a comprehensive insight into Dutch and international art and history. Together, the 12 paintings we looked at today take us through a journey of artistic achievement and innovation, and it's nothing short of remarkable. To experience it in person is overwhelming, yet essential for the soul. I'm very happy to be able to create these videos on topics that I'm so passionate about, and I get so excited every time I finish one and can't wait to share it with you. This is all possible thanks to your wonderful support, and by extension the support of my sponsor today. So I want to take a brief moment to speak about this video's sponsor. Skillshare is an online learning community with hundreds of classes on video editing, script writing, and of course art. With so much information out there on the internet, it's sometimes exhausting to find the support you're looking for. That's why I love Skillshare's curated approach. They even have learning paths, hand-picked classes meant to be taken in order, helping you progress quickly from any starting level. I have recently been looking into learning more about actually drawing figures, and Skillshare's learning paths have given me a solid foundation for my attempts. Remember, Skillshare is all about joining a community of creative and curious people. The first 500 people to use my link will get a 1-month free trial, so check out the link in the video description. And thank you so much Skillshare for sponsoring this video.